Howdy, all. Swan Marion, the bookworm cowboy, here at Haven Humane. And I'm going to read A Wind in the Door by Madeline LaEngle, taking a break from The Color Purple. I'm going to read this book to Lady Violet here. Say hi, Lady Violet.
Oh, I see the name.
Yeah, she's adorable, isn't she? Yeah, she's 6 years old. Anyway. Yeah.
I will go grab a scanner and scan it really quick, just to make sure. But when they're done, those people want to see coffee.
Okay. Is it the younger couple?
They're on the bench right outside. I'll go tell them it's almost right now.
Pardon me. Chapter 7. Metron at Ariston. Meg bent over Mr. Jenkins. She did not realize that Jenny was there until she heard his voice. Really, Progenius, you ought to know better than to take anyone by surprise like that, particularly a still limited one like Mr. Jenkins. He stood between the cherubim and Meg, almost as tall as the school building, half amused, half angry. Progenius fluttered several wings in half-hearted apology. I was very relieved. Why? Will this, Mr. Jenkins ever be anything but a limited one? That is a limited and limiting thought, Progenius said sternly. I am surprised. Now the cherubim was truly abashed. He closed his eyes and covered them with wings, keeping only 3 open. One each to gaze at Jenny, Meg, and the prone Mr. Jenkins. Jenny turned to Meg. My child, I am very pleased with you. Meg blushed. Shouldn't we do something about Mr. Jenkins? Jenny knelt on the dusty ground. His dark fingers, with their vast span, pressed gently against Mr. Jenkins' temples. The principal's usually pasty face was gray. His body gave a spasmodic twitch. He opened his eyes and closed them again immediately, moaned. Tension and relief had set Miss Meg on the verge of hysteria. She was half laughing, half crying. Jenny, don't you realize you must be almost as frightened to poor Mr. Jenkins as Progo? She too dropped to her knees beside the principal. Mr. Jenkins, I'm here, Meg. I know you don't like me, but at least I'm familiar. Open your eyes, it's all right.
Did we get their last name?
Really, it is. Slowly, cautiously, he opened his eyes. I must make an appointment with the psychiatrist immediately. Meg spoke soothingly as to a very small child. You aren't hallucinating. Mr. Jenkins, honestly you aren't. It's all right, they're friends, Jenny and Progo, and they're real. Mr. Jenkins closed his eyes, opened them again, focused on Meg. Jenny is a teacher, Mr. Jenkins, and Progo is a...
Work today.
Well, he's a cherubim.
Okay, I need to
You gotta be blaming Mr. Jenkins for looking incredulous. His voice was thin. Either I am in the process of a nervous breakdown, which is not likely, or I am dreaming. That's it, I must be asleep. He struggled to sit up with Meg's assistance. Why then are you in my dream? Why am I lying on the ground? Has somebody hit me? I went past the bigger boys. He rubbed his hand over his head, searching for a bruise.
Do you know if the others need red collars? Have you guys been putting?
We've been putting on the red collars.
Okay, we can add their last names later.
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
Perfect. I love that. Hey, Goldie. I'm guessing Goldfish is the gold one?
Yes.
Yes. I'm like, you better be.
He rubbed it. Why are you here, Margaret? I seem to remember...
You're the only one that's ready to go. I'm sorry. The others are waiting. And then yes, tuna and salmon are both.
He looked once more at Jenny and prodded nose and shuddered. They're still here. No, I'm still dreaming. Why can't I wake up? This isn't real.
But he's not for eating.
But Jenny echoed Meg echoed Jenny. What is real? She turned to the teacher, but he was no longer paying attention to Mr. Jenkins. She followed Jenny's gaze and saw Louis slithering rapidly towards them. A fresh shudder shook Mr. Jenkins. Not the snake again. I have a phobia about. Meg soothed. Louise is really friendly. She won't hurt you. Snakes. Mr. Jenkins shook his head. Snakes and monsters and giants. It's not possible. None of this is possible. But Jenny turned from his conversation with Louise the Larger, spoke urgently. You must go at once. The extra are enraged. Charles Wallace's mitochondritis is now acute. Oh, but Jenny, take us home quickly, Meg cried. I must be with him. There isn't time. You must go at once to Metron at Ariston.
Is that the second or third book of?
Second.
I love those books.
Second.
Wrinkle in Time is one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
this one's A Wind in the Door.
Open the Door. I don't think I've read that one. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to empty the kennels as soon as they get
Where?
out there.
Without answering, Jenny turned from Meg to Mr. Jenkins. You, sir, do you wish to return to your school and continue your regular day's work, or will you throw in your lot with us? Mr. Jenkins looked completely bewildered. I am having a nervous breakdown. You don't need to have one if you don't want to. You have simply been faced with several things outside your current spheres of experience. That does not mean that we do not exist. Meg felt an unwilling sense of protectiveness towards this unattractive little man she had named. Mr. Jenkins, don't you think you'd better report that you're not well today and come with us? Mr. Jenkins held out his hands helplessly. There were two men who resembled me? Yes, of course there were, but they've gone. Where? Meg turned to Jenny. The teacher looked grave. When an ectros takes on a human body, it tends to keep it. Meg caught hold of the stone gray of the teacher's sleeve. The first test. How did it happen? You didn't make it up, did you? You couldn't have told the extra to turn into Mr. Jenkins, could you? Meg, he cried quietly. I told you I needed your help. You mean this was going to happen anyhow? The extra turned into Mr. Jenkins, even if Mr. Jenkins was a perfect host for their purposes. Rather shakily, Mr. Jenkins tottered towards Jenny, sputtering. Now see here, I don't know who you are and I don't care, but I demand an explanation. But Jenny's voice was now like an English horn than a cello. Perhaps in your world today, such a phenomenon would be called schizophrenia. I prefer the old idea of possession. Are you, sir, questioning my sanity? Louis' small voice whistled urgently. Mr. Jenkins, Jenny said quietly, you must leave. Either return to your school or come with us now. To make surprise, she shouted herself, urging. Please come with us, Mr. Jenkins, but my duty. You know you just can't go back to school again after what's happened. Mr. Jenkins moaned again. His complexion had turned from gray to pale green. And after you met the cherubim and Jenny, Louis whistled again. Jenny asked, are you coming with us or not? Margaret named me. Mr. Jenkins said softly, yes, I will come. Progenos reached out a great pinion and pulled Meg into him. She felt the tremendous heartbeat, a beat which reverberated like a brass gong. Then she saw the ovoid eye open, dilating. She was through. It was something of an anticlimax to find that they were no further from home than the star-watching rock. Wait, was it after all the star-watching rock? She blinked, and when she opened her eyes, Mr. Jenkins and Jenny were there. And Calvin was there too. Oh, thank you, Jenny. Holding her hand out to her, and she was warmed in the radiance of his big smile. It was no longer autumn cold. There was a light breeze, warm and summery. All about them, encircling them, was the sound of summer insects, crickets, katydids, and less pleasantly, the shrill of a mosquito. Frogs were crunking away, and a tree toad sang its scratchy song. The sky was thick with stars, stars which always seemed closer to Earth in summer than in winter. But Jenny sat down, cross-legged, on the rock and beckoned to them. Meg sat in front of him and saw that Louise was coiled nearby, her head resting on one of Prognos's outstretched wings. Calvin sat beside Meg, and Mr. Jenkins stood awkwardly, shifting his weight from one leg to the other. Meg moved a little closer to Calvin, looked up at the sky, and gasped. The stars, the low, daisy-thick summer stars, were not the familiar planets and constellations she had so often watched with her parents. They were as different as that had been the constellations where Prognos had taken her to see the terrible work of the Ekphra. But Jenny, Calvin asked, where are we? Metron Ariston. What's Metron Ariston? Is it a planet? No, it's an idea, a postulatum. I find it easier to posit when I am in my home galaxy. So we are near the Mondrian solar system of the Veganuels galaxy. Stars you see are those I know, those which I see from my home planet. Why are we here? The postulum Metron Ariston makes it possible for all sizes to become relative. Within Metron Ariston, you may be sized so that you are able to converse with a giant star or a tiny farandola. Meg felt a moment of shock and disbelief. Farandola were still less real to her than Charles Wallace's dragons. A farandola? Are we really going to see one? Yes. But it's impossible. A farandola is so small that... How small is it? Jenny asked. So small that it's beyond rationally conceiving, my mother says.
She's in there. She knows.
Mr. Jenkins made a small confused noise and shifted weight again. But Jenny said, and yet Mrs. Murray is convinced that she has proved the existence of farandole. Now let's suppose here we are in Veganuel's galaxy, 2 trillion light years away. Veganuel is just about the same size as your own Earth's galaxy. How long does it take the Milky Way to rotate once around? As no one else spoke, Meg answered, 200 billion light years, clockwise. So that gives us a general idea of the size of your galaxy, doesn't it? Very general, Calvin said. Our minds can't comprehend anything that huge and that macrocosmic. Don't try to comprehend with your mind. Your minds are very limited. Use your intuition. Think of the size of your galaxy. Now think of your sun. It's a star, and it is a great deal smaller than the entire galaxy, isn't it?
I think this
one of course. Think of yourselves now, in comparison with the size of your sun. Think how much smaller you are. Have you done that? Sort of, Meg said. Now think of the mitochondrion. Think of the mitochondria which live in the cells of all living things. How much smaller a mitochondrion is than you. Mr. Jenkins said to himself, I thought Charles Wallace was making them up to show off. But Jenny continued. Now consider that a farandola is a much smaller than a mitochondrion, and the mitochondrion is smaller than you are. This time, Calvin said, problem is that our minds can't comprehend anything that macrocosmic. But Jenny said, another way of putting it would be to say that a farandole is as much smaller than you are as your galaxy is larger than you are. Calvin whistled. Then to a farandola, would any of us would be as big as a galaxy? More or less. You are a galaxy for your farandola. Then how can we possibly meet one? But Jenny's voice was patient. I have just told you that in Metron Ariston we can almost do away with variations in size which are, in reality, quite unimportant. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the great glacier rocks. The rocks, Meg asked, are they really there? Nothing is anywhere in Metron Ariston, Jenny said. I am trying to make things as easy for you as I can by giving you a familiar visual setting. You must try to understand things that not only with your little human minds, which are not a great deal of use in the problems which confront us. Alas, Mr. Jenkins said, crouching uncomfortably on the rock. With what I can understand then, I don't have very much intuition. You must understand with your heart, the whole yourself, not just a fragment. Mr. Jenkins groaned. I am too old to be educable. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I have lived beyond my time. Meg cried, oh no you haven't, Mr. Jenkins, you're just beginning. Mr. Jenkins shook his head in mournful negation. Maybe it would have been better if you'd never named me. Why did I ever have to see you in this way? Or your little brother, or that frightful beast? Progenos made what seemed like a violent volcanic upheaval. Mr. Jenkins stiffened a little, though he could hardly become paler. Are there any more like you? There are a goodly number of cherubim, Progenos replied, but none exactly alike. That's it, Mr. Jenkins said. That's precisely it. Absent-mindedly, he brushed at the dandruff and lint on the shoulders of his dark suit. But Janie listened carefully, bowed his great head courteously. Precisely what, Mr. Jenkins? Nobody should be exactly like anybody else. Is anybody? Those imitations, Mr. Jenkins. To see myself doubled and trebled, there's nothing left to hold on to. Impulsively, Meg got up and ran to the principal. But they aren't like you, Mr. Jenkins. Nobody is. You are unique. I named you, didn't I? Mr. Jenkins' eyes looked blurred and bewildered through the lenses of his spectacles. Yes. Yes, he did. I suppose that's why I'm here, wherever the here is. He turned to Jenny. Those other Mr. Jenkins, you call them Ectra? Yes, the Ectra are those who hate, those who would keep you from being named, who would unname you. It is the nature of love to create. It is the nature of hate to destroy. Mr. Jenkins said heavily, I fear I have not been a loving person. Meg felt a flash of intuition as sharp and as brilliant as the cherubim flame like flame it burned. Oh, Mr. Jenkins, don't you see? Every time I was in your office being awful and hating you, I was really hating myself more than you. Mother was right. She told me that you underestimate yourself. Mr. Jenkins responded in a strange voice she had never heard from him before. Pretty unusual, unlike his usual nasal, shrill asperity. We both do, don't we, Margaret? When I thought your parents were looking down on me, I was really looking down on myself. I don't see any other way to look at myself. Now at last, Meg glimpsed that the Mr. Jenkins who had bought shoes for Calvin, who had clumsily tried to make those shoes look worn. Mr. Jenkins turned to the Jenkins. Those extra, singular, extras. Those extra who took on who took on my likeness, Mr. Jenkins said. Can they cause more trouble? Yes. They would harm Charles Wallace? They would extinguish him, the cherubim said. Egg reached out and longing in fear towards her brother. You shouldn't have left them, she started and closed her mouth. She felt the cherubim moving gently within her, helping her, giving her little shoves of thought, and then she seemed to be with Charles Wallace, not in actuality, not in person, but in her heart. In her heart she saw their mother carrying him up the stairs, Charles limp in his mother's arms, legs dangling. Mrs. Murray went into his room, a small paneled room with a steel fireplace, and one wallpapered in the blue and white snowflake pattern, a safe, comfortable room.
That little gray one over here? Or does that one have a red column?
Well, we do have.
The window looked out onto the pine woods behind the house. The light which came in was gentle and kind. Mrs. Murray laid Charles Wallace down on his bed and began to undress him. The child barely had the strength to help her. He made an effort to smile and said, I'll be better soon. Meg will be home from school in a couple of hours, their mother said. She'll be right up to see you, and Dr. Louise is on her way. Meg isn't in school, speaking with almost a great effort. Mrs. Murray did not contradict him, as perhaps he might have normally, but helped him into his pajamas. I'm cold, Mother. Pull the covers over him. I'll get another blanket. A sound of feet pounding up the stairs, and the twins burst in. What's this? What's this? What's the matter? Is Charles sick? Mrs. Murray answered quickly. He's not feeling very well. Bad enough to go to bed? Did he have trouble in school again? School is fine. He took Louise and yeah, bully for you, Charger. That's telling them. Charles Wallace managed a reasonably good smile. Sandy, Mrs. Murray said, please bring up some wood for a fire. It's a little chilly. Denny's, if you please go to the cedar closet and get another blanket. Okay, sure, right away. Meg will read to you or something when she gets home, Charles. Meg thought she heard Charles Wallace saying once again that Meg was not in school, but it was as though a mist swept over the vivid scene. And Charles Wallace's room was gone, and Meg was standing pressed close against the cherubim, who had one wing strongly about her. Jenny said, No, my children, we must have a lesson. Just make believe that it is daytime. You can, believing takes practice, but neither you, Calvin, nor you, Meg, is old enough to have forgotten completely how to do it. You must make it believe for yourselves and for Mr. Jenkins. This may seem a trivial task in view of the gravity of the circumstances, but it is practice for what is to come. Now make believe. Turn night into day. Cherubim withdrew his wing, and Meg put her hand on Jenny's. Her own hand was very small in comparison, as small as it had been when she was younger than Charles Wallace, and had held her father's hand in complete love and trust. She looked up at Jenny's grave, black face, looked into the strange amber eyes, which sometimes seemed to hold the cold light of the moon, and which now glowed with the warmth of the sun. Color flooded the image sky of Metrona Ariston, a vast arching blue canopy, cloudless and shimmering with warmth. About the rock, the green grasses of summer rippled in the breeze. A bird sang, was joined by others, until melody was all around him. The grass was brightened by field flowers, daisies, black-eyed Susans, Indian paintbrushes, butter and eggs, purple thistles, all the summer flowers blooming abundantly and brilliantly. Colors blazed more brightly than normal. Calvin's hair, the shade of an Indian paintbrush, burned like sunlight. His freckles seemed larger and more profuse than ever. The faded blue of his jacket had deepened to meet the gentian blue of his eyes. He had on one red sock and one purple sock. Meg's old kilt, faded from countless washings, looked bright and new, and her hair, she thought, was probably as mouse brown as ever. And Mr. Jenkins was still pasty and colorless. Louise the larger, however,
she is a lot.
looked even larger than usual, and her coils shone with purple and gold. Meg looked towards Progenos, and the shining of the cherubim was so brilliant it almost blinded her. She had to look away. Now, my children, Jenny said, including Mr. Jenkins in the appellation, we will welcome the other members of this class. From behind the smaller of the two graceful rocks, a tiny creature appeared and scampered over to them. It looked rather like a small silver blue mouse, and yet it seemed to Meg to be a sea creature rather than a land creature. Its ears were large and velvety, the fur shading off into lavender fringes at the tips, blowing gently in the breeze like sea plants moving in the currents of the ocean. Its whiskers were unusually long, its eyes were large and milky, and had no visible pupil or iris. But there was nothing dull about them. They shone like moonstones. It spoke, but not.
Here, my love.
Oh. Taking her?
Yes, she's meeting with somebody.
Okay. Have fun, Lady Violet. Guess I'll read to you, Carlos. Guess I'm reading this one. Hi, Carlos. It spoke, but neither a mouse's squeak nor a human voice. But it sounded like harp strings being plucked underwater. The long whiskers vibrated almost as though they were being played. They did not give forth words, and yet it was quite plain that I was saying something like, "Hello, are you my classmates?" Jenny spoke in the mouse's creature's language, words that did not issue from his mouth. His ground lips were closed, yet the children heard the lovely rippling harp sounds. Mouse creature did not seem pleased, and made sounds which conveyed a good deal of doubt. Meg understood it to be complaining that if it had to pass even the most preliminary of examinations with an earthling, it was dubious that it could do so. A cherubim might be of some help, but surely earthly creatures were nothing but. Progenos said, "I too had misgivings about earthlings, but the girl earthling and I have just come through the first ordeal, and it was the first girl who did it."
Yeah. Do you know anything about baby?
The mouse's creature's whiskers.
Yes, she needs a
Twingle.
rabies shot. They told me
Twingle.
up front. Anything else?
It can't
I
have
don't think so.
been much of an ordeal. Can we please get going, Jenny? We have only a parsec before I make my preliminary report. And I can see I have a great deal to teach whomever I am unfortunate enough to have as a partner. Even if it's the cherubim, long lavender tail which had a fish-like fin at the tip switched, and its whiskers bristled in Meg's direction.
Yeah. How many
Meg
you have
bristled
there?
too.
They need that information for the front.
Perhaps when I'm as old as you are,
Still in there?
I'll have learned a few things to teach you. Mouse creature's
We have Miss
whiskers vibrated wildly.
Lee, an adult.
Age is immaterial. In any case, it so happens I was born only yesterday. Then what are you doing here? Mouse creature drew itself up. Now it reminded Meg not so much of a mouse as of a small shrimp with antennae waving wildly. There's only one of us farandole born every generation or now, so nowadays. We start our schooling the moment we were born. You were a farandole, naturally.
I love how people get angry.
What did you expect me to be? What else could I possibly be? Everybody knows that the farandole. She interrupted. Everybody doesn't. The existence of farandole wasn't even guessed at all until a few years ago. And we were beginning to learn more about mitochondria, and my mother has now isolated the effect of farandole on mitochondria with her microsonoscope. Even with the microelectron microscope, farandole can just be proved to exist. They can't really be seen. Mouse creatures, the farandoles, whiskers twanged. It's a very stupid breed of creature that doesn't know its own inhabitants, especially if it's unfortunate enough to be inhabited by farandole. They're extremely important and getting more so. Past the farandole, behind Progenos and Louis the Larger, the shape of Mr. Jenkins blew rapidly across the horizon. Mr. Jenkins, standing out near Megan Calvin, quivered. The Jenny looked grim.
Extra at work.
Mouse creature farandole paid no attention. My quercus, my tree, hasn't had an offspring for 100 years. Our years, of course. It will take me that long to become full grown myself. This is only my second phase. Meg spoke in her ungracious manner. You're going to tell us about your first phase whether you want to or not, so go ahead.
She got adopted, isn't that
Nice.
exciting?
Congratulations, Lady Violet.
Yeah.
You got adopted.
Yeah, by a lovely man who has a child, so that will be good for her.
Ah,
I know.
congratulations, Lady Violet. Mazel tov.
So I took all the signs down and I'm gonna put up dogs. I just had to go pee.
You be free, my friend.
What? Pardon me?
No, you're totally okay.
The glimpse of Charles Wallace, followed by the sight of another ex-host, Mr. Jenkins, had forced her to realize that the successful passing of the first test did not mean that everything was going to be all right. Al Shrimp Farandole reacted by an intensified trembling of feelers. Yesterday morning, I was still contained inside the single golden fruit hanging on my tree. At noon, it burst and fell open, and there I was, newly hatched. In my tadpole stage, I was delivered to Metron Ariston and transmorgified. And here I am. My name is Sporos, by the way. And I do not like your thinking names like mouse creature or shrimp and shrimping at me. Sporos. When I have finished this phase of my education, if I finished, with one of you as a partner, I will root myself in deepen. After an aeon, I'll send up a small green shoot out of my kelp bed and start growing into an aqueous, deciduous, spore-producing, fruit-bearing coniferous farandole. Calvin looked horrified. You're mad. I've studied biology. You're not possible. Neither are you. Sporos replied indignantly. Nothing important is. The Jenny, as it is my misfortune to be paired with one of those earthlings. Louis the Larger lifted her head out of her coils and looked at Sporos. Heavy lids met and closed. The Jenny said,
You are hardly making yourself popular, Sporos.
I'm not a mere earthling. Earthlings are important only because they are inhabited by farandole. Popularity is immaterial to farandole. The Jenny turned away from Sporos in quiet rebuff. Calvin, you and Sporos are to work together. Oh well, you can't win them all, was more or less the effect of what Sporos was vibrating. Many thought it would have been more appropriate response coming from Calvin. Mr. Jenkins said, The Jenny, if I may presume.
Yes?
I did not see another copy of myself just a few moments ago, did I not?
Yes, I'm afraid you did.
What does it mean? The Jenny said.
It means nothing good.
Progenos scattered.
You see, we aren't any place. We're in Metron Ariston. We're simply in an idea which Jenny happens to having in the middle of the Mondrian solar system, in the Veganuel galaxy. And Extros to Mr. Jenkins ought to be able to follow us here. It means what? Mr. Meg demanded. Like Virginia Pudgeon's said,
Nothing good.
Swirls twinkled his whiskers. Need we stand around chittering when we're going? Very soon. Where? Meg demanded. She felt prickles of foreboding. To a far place, Meg. But Mother and Father, Charles Wallace, the twins, we can't just go off this way with Charles Wallace so ill.
That is why we're going, Meg.
Virginia said. Sparrow rippled his undulating notes and Meg said something like, can't you just call home or just reach out and talk to each other when you want to? Then horrified, oh my goodness, I don't see how anybody as ignorant as you three earthlings seem can possibly manage. Do you mean on your Earth host you never communicate with each other and with other planets? You mean your planet revolves about all isolated in space? Aren't you terribly lonely, isn't he? He or she, your planet, aren't you lonely? Maybe we are, a little, Calvin conceded, but it's a beautiful planet. That, Squirrel said, as it may be. But since I was only born yesterday and came right into Metron Ariston and to Blageni, I don't know the planets except the ones in the Mondrian solar system. They talk back and forth all the time. They chatter too much, if you ask me. We didn't. They tried to interrupt, but Sparrows twinkled on. Dude, I wasn't born in some dreadful mitochondrion which lives in some horrible isolated human host on a lonely planet like yours. You are still from the same planet. I thought so. Oh dear, oh dear. I can see that you aren't going to be the least help to me in passing any of the trials. I'd better see what time it is. How can you tell time? Calvin asked curiously. By the leaves, of course. You mean to say you don't even know what the time of day? Of course I do. With my watch. What's a watch? Calvin extended his wrist. He was very proud of his watch, which had been a prize at school, and gave the date as well as the hour. It had a sweep hand, and it was a stopwatch as well. What a peculiar object. Sparrows regarded it with a certain contempt. Does it work just for your time or for time in general? Just for our time, I guess. You mean, if you want to know what time it is anywhere in Virginia's galaxy or in a distant mitochondrion, your watch tells things that won't tell you? Well, no, it just tells the time for whatever time zone I'm in. Mighty yada. How confused everything must be on your planet. Oh, my human host isn't in your planet. Mr. Jenkins said plaintively, if someone would just explain to me what is going on. Mr. Jenkins, Meg said, you know what the extra are? But I don't. I only know that they impersonated me. But Jenny placed both great hands on Mr. Jenkins' stooped shoulders, looked down at him gravely.
They are evil forces at work in the world.
Mr. Jenkins nodded mutely. He did not dispute that.
They are throughout the universe.
Mr. Jenkins glanced at the cherubim, who had stretched out his wings to the fullest bend as though to flex his muscles. How big are they?
They are no size and they are every size. An Extros can be as large as a galaxy or as small as a farandola. Or as you have seen a replica of yourself. They are the powers of nothingness, those who would unname. Their aim is to total X, to extinguish all creation.
What do they have to do with Charles Wallace?
The Ektra are trying to destroy his mitochondria.
Why would they bother with a child?
It's not always on the great or the important that the balance of the universe depends.
Luis the Lodger whistled urgently. And Meg was almost sure that the snake was telling him that she would stay with Charles Wallace, that she would encourage him, keep fighting to live. Oh, Louise, please, please, you won't leave him. You will help him. I will not leave him. Will it be all right? Louise answered with silence. But Jenny said to Mr. Jenkins,
Charles Wallace will die if his mitochondria die. Do you understand?
Mr. Jenkins shook his head. I thought he was making things up with his big words. I thought he was trying to show off. I didn't know they were really mitochondria.
But Jenny turned to Meg. Explain.
I'll try, but I'm not sure I really understand either, Mr. Jenkins. But I do know that we need energy to live, okay? Thus far. She felt that Jenny hiding the information to her, and voluntarily her mind sorted it, simplified, and put it into words which she hoped Mr. Jenkins would understand. Well, each of our mitochondria has its own built-in system to limit the rate at which the fuel burns. Okay, Mr. Jenkins? Pray continue, Margaret. The number of farandole in any mitochondrion drops below a certain point, then hydrogen transport can't occur. There isn't enough fuel. The result is death through energy lack. She felt the skin in her arms and legs prickling coldly. Putting into words that might be happening within Charles Wallace was almost unendurable. She felt Jenny prodding her and continued. Something is happening in Charles Wallace's mitochondria. I'm not sure what it is, but it's all words I don't know. But the farandole are dying. Maybe they're killing each other. No, that's not right. Sounds to me as though they're refusing to sing, and that doesn't make any sense. The point is that they're dying, and so his mitochondria can't produce enough oxygen. She broke off angrily. But Jenny, this is all nonsense. How can we stop them from doing whatever it is they're doing when they're so small and they're not even visible? You got to tell us, how can we help Charles? But Jenny's cutting was calm and cold as steel.
You will know soon.
Know what?
What you must do to overcome the extra. When you get there, my children, you will know.
When will we get there? When we get where?
To one of Charles Wallace's mitochondria. And with that, we must end here.